Welcome to the Appmon gameplay guide. We're facing off against Magnamon armors and we are going first in this game. So decided to go for this hand just because I had a Navimon. I have the option Applink to search and find my pieces. So I have choices to sort of navigate and sort of find what I need as I go through the entire course of the game. When it comes to this matchup, we have pretty strong tools that can play around a lot of armor stuff. We have a lot of control power, so I'm just going to go ahead and Digivolve into Navimon in the back first, and then just go ahead and Applink and find my pieces, and I feel confident that I can kind of like Digivolve up. This is nice because now I have a Gaiamon and a Digimon in my hand, which I can actually start Art App fusing the following turn if I need to. And the opponent gives us quite a bit of memory to work with here, which is going to be good with the Vmon down, and we can actually possibly get rid of it too. So we're going to go ahead and App fuse into Digach with the Gaiamon underneath there, and then we can actually just swing over the Vmon, which I also did find the Karasmon, which there's two ways to go about this. I could actually just also taunt them and then block the attack there and like do the start and main stuff. But anyways, just getting rid of that Vmon is a really good one to get rid of just because it constantly is going to reduce their Digivolution cost. So that's something I definitely want to address as soon as I can. And then now I have a Karas. I don't have a Globemon just yet, but I felt quite confident because I do have Gaiamon in my hand, which I can just hard evo into if I need to. The opponent is going to continue to find pieces and search at the moment and set up, so they're going to go for a pretty explosive turn at some point. But I'm not too worried because as long as I establish some blockers, I can sort of keep the armor deck in control. I'm going to go for a chip first here just to see what I can get. Karasmon is like at least 11,000 DP, which I'm pretty confident in attacking into armor generally just because they don't have a really strong security when it comes to DP wise. So then I decided to evo into Ukomon, just wanting to have a rookie set up and ready to go, and I'm Digivolving into Gaiamon to pass my turn and using its effect to tuck in the Karasmon underneath. So now I have even more DP buffs and I have protection against pretty much leaving from the battle area. Now I did make a mistake there, which when I linked in the Karasmon, I forgot to draw an extra card off of Swipemon's inheritable effect there. But we're sitting in a pretty good position now because once Gaiamon is out, we're pressuring the opponent's security, we can trash their security, and we can keep cycling our Applink monsters from either the sources or from our hand, and we have a whole lot of toolboxing to use from. The opponent tries to Digivolve into Sethmon here off of Mental Training, which is actually not possible because it's not blue. So they couldn't Digivolve there, so they go for the Magnamon here instead to trash our sources, which is not the best for us just because we can utilize those sources by app linking. But the nice thing is when it comes to app linking, everything that's linked on the side is not a Digivolution card for you guys who don't know. So they're not going to be able to trash anything or touch any of that. Gaiamon is pretty much 20k DP and it's incredibly strong. I'm not going to block that attack there earlier just because I didn't want to give them a free delay on the armor Digivolution to sort of like get into another one for free. But it looks like they're going to have to hard play their own Davis and do that manually themselves instead, just so they possibly could go into another Magnet and suspend. And the thing is, I felt like if I block that first attack, they can possibly pump up their DP and then they should be able to swing over us possibly afterwards. So I kind of want to keep my Gaiamon like on the board as much as possible. I didn't mind them chipping away at my security just because I felt like I'm still relatively healthy. So I'm just going to go ahead and push out the Uko and try to search and find my pieces. I'm going to grab the Navimon here and pretty much bomb deck everything else, and then that way I can hatch an egg and get Digivolve in the back if I want to. So I'm still contemplating though. I was like, oh, maybe I could grab the Haru or Gachmon, which I decided to grab Haru in the end because I wanted to have a tamer instead of Navimon because I had another one in my hand, so I changed my mind there. And then with the Magnamon, it's sitting at 16k. I'm trying to see how I want to actually deal with their security there. I could swing with Gaiamon and Applink something for free as I go into, which is going to be nice so that I can trash the security, but they could proc the Magnamon effect there to gain extra DP buffs. But this ensures that I am at least matching their DP. If not equal, I think I'll probably still be higher because I'll be at 20k and the Magna should only be at 19. So this is going to be trash. Trashing the Fire Rocket is fantastic for us because if we hit into that, we're going to probably get deleted. Gaiamon is a blocker, so we dodged that thankfully, which is really good. But even if it does delete us, we still have the Karasmon inheritable effect, not inheritable effect, the Applink effect to prevent us from leaving battle area. So really nice protection right there. So we managed to get 2 damage in right there. They're not going to use the Magna and suspend there just yet because they probably want to save it for this last moment. so that they can block multiple attacks if need to and slow us down. But we're going to go ahead and chip with the Uko, but this puts them in a difficult position now because now we're able to outmaneuver them and they fell for a trap. So then Gaiamon can actually swing over the Magna because it doesn't have that DP buff. Even if it did, it'd be 19 and we would be 20k. So we're 1k above, which is going to be really good there in that position too. So I'm going to continue to Digivolve in the back, and I think I forgot that Gaiamon's when attacking effect is not even once per turn, so I actually could have easily app-linked something from my hand for free as a matter of fact there. And then I would have tossed away the Gossipmon, and I probably could have put a Scopemon just to draw additional cards, because you guys can see here I'm using the end of turn to do it instead, which honestly I could have got it off for free without having to waste my delay there. But either way, we're sitting in a really good position. Like I said, you know, the opponent still hasn't been able to really take down much of a security as we're beating them down. Next turn, we pretty much have lethal, and with only like 2 memory to work with, they either have to climb into another Magna X, which I know quite a few of armor decks nowadays right now don't play as many Magna X's, unless if they're actually specifically playing a Magna X focused deck, but we can kind of see this in more armors focus. So either they go into that, or they have to establish another blocker on the board, because next turn, we're pretty much going to swing with Gaia, Trash, Unsuspend, and if they only have 1 block, we pretty much had like another attack ready to go to finish them off with either from raising or as Gaiamon attacks and go for it again. So this is where they won't be able to drop down the rookie. It looks like they're going to go for the Davis effect to trash their Magna, and then Digivolve into something else that they might be looking for. I probably would have actually tried to chip at our security there, just because we don't really have a blocker. Our guy is suspended there, and there shouldn't be any surprises. But maybe they wanted to load up on additional pieces just because the Magna can get deleted by security, and then they won't be able to use the Davis's effect. I'm not too sure, but we're going to see what they're going to do. And then depending on what they do, that's going to how we'll react. But again, we're in a very comfortable position. They go into the new Magna, which is going to DP reduce us quite a bit. But I don't think it's enough to actually put us down weak enough. Because with minus 6k, like I said, with 20k, we're still 14. And the Magna that they have is only 10k. So they're not going to be able to attack over a Gaiamon, which is really, really powerful. Because even if they try to go into us, like I mentioned, Charismon is a full-on protection against leaving the battle area entirely. So it looks like they don't have much choice here in the end. They're just going to have to hard drop another Magna to set up a blocker and hope for the best from there. But that gives us a lot of memory to work with. And honestly, we can just easily climb up and find pieces and pretty much get rid of and deal with both those cards on the board to help us secure the 100% win con there. We're going to go into Glowmon. We're going to app fuse with the Dagach and the Timemon so that we can tuck something underneath. And then from our hand, which is going to be Gossipmon, and I'm just trying to see what else I want to grab back from the trash. And then I pretty much get to delete something. I'm going to grab the Dagachmon just because the Dagachmon will let us attack as well once we link into something. So that could be some neat combos. And I'm just going to go ahead and go with Gaiamon, which I can easily just slide in a Globemon, which will delete that Magnamon, and then they won't have a blocker. It will trash the security, and we finish them off. Alright, next game, facing against Crossheart, which got pretty good substantial support as well in BT21. So interested to see how the power upgrades here. I am going first, and I decided to mulligan the hand just because I only had 1 Navimon to work with. And I didn't really want to just Digivolve into like a Gossip and then like pass them to 2, so I felt like the hand could be a little bit better. But I think this is where I kind of made a potential mistake, because as we're just about to see, our mulligan hand afterwards was probably not the best one. I think we probably got like, okay, you know what, Uko is not bad, and then now we're stuck with every level 4, which is really unfortunate, but it's okay. I'm going to still find a way to play through this, because pushing out that Uko could really make it or break it for us. And it could save ourselves here, because by revealing, I was like, okay, I probably have to grab this Navimon just because it's another rookie. I get to hatch. I can now choose to either Digivolve into the back or hard drop it to search. Now, the thing is, I'm not super confident in finding like another rookie afterwards, so I felt like I want to go for the safer play, so I'm just going to Digivolve in the back. And the thing is, I'm going to hard drop the Scopemon, which actually really comes in clutch. And the nice thing is, I realized you can tuck in any card from the trash as long as it has Appmon in it. So I would believe I could tuck in that Swipemon so I can utilize the effects to draw more cards later on as I link more afterwards. The opponent's going to go for a chip, and it's going to give us an Appmon card, which is going to be very nice for us to utilize more resources. And it's in the early stages of the game, so I felt like, okay, I could find my way around this. It was also unfortunate that Uko actually bottom decked 2 level 5s, both Karas and Globemon, which I kind of was hoping to grab as well, because I need that to kind of climb up and continue to Digivolve and cycle through to get into Gaiamon, which I do have in my hand as well. So I'm going to go ahead and link as much as I can to draw as many cards with Swipemon, with Scopemon as well, and then now I'm going to link Navi underneath Gatchmon so then I can app fuse into the Gatchmon too. I definitely want to get rid of that Shoutmon. I don't want it to continue chipping. They have the Pikmons underneath. I can continue to give them draw cards, power, and all that kind of stuff. And the thing is, right now, I don't see them having a lot of sources in their tamers just yet. So I felt like this is a pretty good position. I feel like I have time. They can't go into Shoutmon E-Cross 6 as quickly just yet. So we can chip a little bit, and I decide to actually slot in Timemon just as the best way to give them as little memory to work with as possible. And the idea is that now that I actually have a Globemon in my hand, I can pretty much app fuse the following turn and get into a Gaiamon, and I pretty much be in a good position. But this is why I totally didn't expect it, where they actually just drop the E-Cross 6 and they actually have several pieces they need. Of course, they don't need to have every single piece in order to reduce it down to like 1 cost or 3 costs. They can still play this out with resources underneath, and the new Taiki that they have on the board lets them attack before the turn ends anyways. They're going to blanket 5k on our board, they're going to swing, they're going to delete something and take down our Gatchmon all at the same time and pierce for checks. Now we lost everything that we established in that momentum. I felt like there was no better way I could have really like set up that board better, just because the resources I had in hand was fairly limited to begin with. And with basically 3 memory and no rookie to work with, this is really where Scopemon comes in clutch. Just because it's almost like a 3 cost hard drop, and instantly I have a level 4 to work with. And then I can actually just go ahead and Digivolve the Scopemon into a level 5, which is going to be my Globemon. And Globemon is going to able to at least, you know, put more sources underneath or continue to do app linking, and then I could actually pressure a Shadow Seraphi Ace against them too, possibly. But this is where the setup really comes in handy too, because I have App Link, so at the end of turn, I can actually consider using App Link as well to put in the Karasmon, which is going to be free from my hand. And then because I App Linked, Haru is going to draw me 1, and I'm also going to be able to go into Gaiamon before the turn ends. And then with Gaiamon's one Digivolving effect, I can pretty much App Link something else once more, and then see where I want to go from there. I was debating that I want to get rid of the E-Cross 6 just so that, you know, they lose their boss monster. But this is where I realized that was a pretty suboptimal play, and it might be a fatal mistake. Because the thing is, I was also betting the fact that they may not have another one just yet, just because we saw one super early and pretty much like their second turn. So I felt like, you know, chances are they may not have another one. They're gonna have to, like, you know, cycle and draw or find a bit more, which they probably did by now. Because the thing is, I could have just left the E-Cross 6 alone, and it's not going to do too much. It's going to win attack and try to delete something, but the thing is, Gaiamon generally has bigger DP than it is anyway, so it's not going to be able to delete it, thanks to having App Link underneath, and pretty much it's going to be at 17k. Whereas I really probably should have tucked the Karasmon as the App Link instead of Globemon just to delete it, because at least Karasmon would give me the protection to keep my Gaiamon on the board. Because now we're betting on the chances are that if they have another E-Cross 6, I'm pretty much doomed. The Gaiamon is not going to be strong enough because they have a lot of sources, they save a lot underneath their tamers, and they can easily just Digicross again to go into another one for way cheaper than before. And this is where it comes down, and as I just said it, which is really unfortunate. But I think looking back, I think that was the biggest turnover point that I could have done way better. Because now they have Shooting Star Mons. They can come out with that E-Cross 6. It's going to DP reduce a total of 8k to our Gaia, as you guys can see. And it's going to swing, so it's going to pop it. No matter what value we find in security at this moment, it's not going to help us anymore. We pretty much exhausted all of our best cards, being one of them Gossipmon that turn to help us make a comeback play. If I had a Gatchmon, then maybe I could probably try to do something here, but even then, nah, I think the situation just looks pretty doomed. So this is going to be tough here. I'm not too sure how else I can push this further. So in the end, I'm just going to hard drop that Shadow Seraphi, de-digivolve, and hope that I have enough blocks, and maybe they don't have enough sequencing or attacks that they can really sort of like finish the game off there. But you know, that pretty much gives them like 4 memory and start a main in the game 1 off Taiki as well. And they still have a decent amount of sources, and it depends on what they can really play out. If they can play out something with Rush, then it's pretty much over, because here, whatever they attack, we can always just block with Shadow Seraphi and then DP reduce on one of their bodies to stop an additional attack to maybe, hopefully, not let them finish the game. But generally, Crossheart is pretty confident in being able to dish out attacks the moment they come out, just because when they Digicross, you're going to have Shoutmon underneath, and Shoutmon gives Rush anyways. But I gotta admit, the amount of firepower they have in the early stages by going to E-Cross 6 definitely caught me off guard. So here they're going to swing with a block, and then they go with Viego to go for the final attack, but it looks like they have another E-Cross 6, and pretty much having the Shoutmon DX, which pretty much counts as Z-Gray as well, and that's going to keep their turn still. And even if it doesn't keep their turn, the new Taiki pretty much lets them resolve an attack before the turn ends anyways. Unfortunately, they were able to get us this time. This game, we're facing off against Galaxy Toolbox, a very powerful deck, definitely known as pretty meta competitive as well, top tier for sure, and we are going second. Not going to keep that hand, there's no rookies to work with, only level 4s, so I didn't really want to. I could make the argument that, oh yeah, I have a Scopemon, if I find a way to like link with a Scopemon into something else, then I could draw 2 and trash 2 and sort of like find what I need from there, but nah. It's way better to go for a mulligan. I want to see at least 1 level 3 that can digivolve in the back. Otherwise, like a Tamer or the option ideally. And this doesn't look too bad because we actually have a full line that we can just climb up. Aside from just trying to do app fusion and app linking all the time, one of the ways that you can kind of still build traditionally with this deck is just digivolve up the line. So I have a Gatchmon, I'm going to digivolve into the Gatchmon, and then I'm going to digivolve into Globemon. I am forgoing a lot of their when digivolving effects, but it's totally fine at this moment just because I felt like I gotta climb up. They have a memory setter, they gave us 4 memory to work with right off the bat. And one of the things when I learned about playing with the Appmon deck is that it's actually really solid when it has a lot of like toolbox effects that can really counter and sort of like get you a lot of like adapt into many different situations and face off against many different matchups, because you have like removal when it comes to de-digivolving, you can delete things, and you can raid, you have piercing and trash security, which is really cool to if you think about it. You also have protection as well. And the only weakness I realized with this deck is, well, for such a toolbox based deck, is that gathering those specific pieces is usually the challenge, because it doesn't have a super fast ramping capability. It doesn't have a lot of draw power aside from Swipemon or Haru, which you need to establish to draw cards. And then you have some searching capability, but not like a whole lot either to get there. But one thing I realized as we're playing against the Galaxy deck, specifically when they go into Gaiamon, is that they make us draw cards too. They go into Mirage and actually help us get cards in our hand. And like I mentioned earlier, this deck doesn't have a lot of draw power itself inherently, so I'm not gathering a lot of cards early in the stages. And the Mirage here, it looks like they're doing a lot of things, right? They get off a lot from their first stack here. They get to gain a lot of memory, they get to draw a lot of cards, they get to bounce our security. But this actually gave us the pieces that we need to answer against them, although I kind of had them to begin with, but drawing those additional cards gave me more avenues to play around it. And the nice thing is that the Appmon deck actually has so much removal, it's actually pretty good against the Galaxy deck, just because Galaxy has 0 protection, almost. So I'm just gonna hard evo into the Gaiamon, and Gaiamon is gonna tuck the Globemon with its sources underneath it to delete the Mirage. I didn't want to swing with the Globemon for 2 checks, just because they could have pretty big boss level 6s in there. I wasn't even linked either, so Globemon's only 10k, which chances of it surviving is really low. Neither did I want to app link before doing any other play, because if I app linked, Swipemon would have forced me to draw a card, and that would basically trigger their Mirage to gain memory passing the turn. So I'm just going to hard evo right there. I'm going to force them to use their scramble if they want to, and then they could pretty much just go from there. But otherwise, I have a Gaiamon ready to pretty much like beat them down constantly the turn afterwards. And they go for a Pheromon. Unfortunately, they whiff their search, but that's fine, because for us, we're gonna take that down. We have so many different avenues now. I have a Gaiamon ready to go in the following turn. I really want to basically attack with Gaiamon and then use its when attacking effect to tuck something underneath, and then I can suspend. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that, put Gaiamon underneath so that I can raid into the Firemon and then also trash their security, hitting their Tamer, which is gonna be perfect for us. And now I'm sitting here deciding and thinking, do I need to go for another hit? Well, since I trashed a Tamer, chances of giving them another value card is kind of low on the next check, and I felt like the next turn they can probably remove the Gaiamon anyways, so I felt like I really need to attack once more so that I can use this when attacking effect to tuck in the Charismon so that Charismon can give us the protection in case they try to remove it any way or another. And then now afterwards, I gotta see how I want to follow the play. I've got two ways I can do this. I can either Digivolve into like a Timon in the back and then like find a way to pass the opponent to 3 by playing out like a Navimon and all that, but I felt like having a memory setter probably would be way more crucial. Having Haru really helps turbo up your efficiency as well, because it lets you sort of app fuse immediately when you link something, so that you can really like bridge on your combos even if the memory gauge passes to your opponent's side. So they're gonna come up with the Coronamon, it's gonna gain a memory, and chances are I know they can easily climb up. Galaxy Toolbox is just a fast deck after all, so they can pretty much like Digivolve. They have 2 Tamers to work with, they can regress, and then they can pretty much go into another one. Here comes down the Gaiamon, which they really want to get into generally because it's going to give them a lot more memory to work with for that particular turn. But that's something that we love to see ourselves either as well, just because we get to draw more cards. Now if they go into a Mirage later on, it can be dangerous because then they could pretty much like gain a lot of memory off of it. And I remember they probably picked it up back with the Blue Scramble, which we saw early on. But they still have to address this Gaiamon here, because if you don't, next turn, it's pretty much going to like do 3 damage, putting them down to 0. And if they don't have like a blocker or anything to interact against us during our turn, the Gaiamon can just simply finish the game. So we're pretty much presenting lethal at this point. And we have so many tools in our hands to pretty much, you know, go with any card that we need to answer anything. So I actually felt pretty confident as I was playing this matchup and I was learning more about it. And I was like, yeah, they could just do their thing. They're ramping up, sure, they're searching. They can do whatever, and I guess it really just comes down to what level 6 they choose to get into, and that's how we would try to play around it afterwards. So they're going into Mega CX. It's not going to be able to stun us down, unfortunately, because it doesn't have X antibody. It's not going to bottom deck anything either. But one thing I actually noticed as I was recording this, I wasn't too sure if you can actually Digivolve Mega C on top of Pheromon, even though if you use Ko and Sayo. I'm not an expert on the Galaxy deck, so if any of you guys know, let me know in the comments. But either way, it's probably the only level 5 they get into. It doesn't really matter because I feel like in this match, we still pretty much have everything under control. It doesn't matter what they get into anyways. But yeah, so looks like they're gonna try to go into a level 6. Looking like either a Mirage again to bounce our security, and then they could possibly like gain a lot of memory off of that. They're not gonna have enough DP though, because it's only have like an extra 4k buff. The other thing to mention is that our Gaiamon is 21k, because we have both 4k buffs on it with Charismon and Globemon. But now it looks like they go into the Invisimon, which is going to de-Digivolve too, and that's where the trashing sources kind of paid off, or sort of like how we utilize our sources paid off for them, because now they de-Digivolve too, it goes into a Swipemon, then the whole set basically is gone. But here, we pretty much have the formula to actually try and potentially finish the game off, which is absolutely insane. Coming out with a Gaiamon with a Haru memory setter is all we need, because we're going to go and app fuse into Gaiamon with Navi, and then we get to go into linking with Timon, de-Digivolving them, and then we get to app fuse once again into the Globemon, which is the perfect setup we have. And then here we're just thinking, okay, how do we want to deal with this? What do I want to tuck under with Globemon's when Digivolving effect? I was thinking of, oh, maybe the piercing, but I wasn't really going to swing over it either, so I don't really need it necessarily. I was like, no, I can't put the Gaiamon, so I just decided to go for the Timon to de-Digivolve and then basically popping the entire stack. Swing 2 checks right here, and this is where the crazy game-ending combo, which we can get into. I'm going to go and probably tuck the Charismon for 3 cost into the Globemon, which I have to trash away the Timon. That's fine, it's already made its use. Draw one of Haru. Haru is going to use the second effect to Digivolve into Gaiamon. Gaiamon is going to use his when Digivolving effect to tuck the Gaiamon underneath, trashing security and suspend, and Gaiamon when link is going to allow our Gaiamon to attack before the turn ends. Don't forget to grab the Destined Partners playmat and the status counters on the AVAULT store, which are perfect accessories to help assist you guys while playing the game. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night. wherever you are. See you in the next video. And this is AVAULT signing out.